Okay, so for this video, we are going to discuss on the second part of chapter 2. Alright, so for the first part of chapter 2, we discuss all the permutation. Permutation means that when you want to consider all the objects, right, the arrangement or the order is important. The sequence is important. So you will see that for permutation, right, usually the keyword, you will see that the arrangement, number of arrangement, how many ways you can arrange it. So the arrange itself is a keyword for permutation. Alright, so for permutation, most of the time you are using factorial. Like 7 factorial means that you are going to arrange 7 different objects. Okay, and then we also learned about the different restrictions. Okay, about the permutation also. Like when there are some objects want to be always together, then how you arrange it. When all the objects must be separated, then how you arrange them and so on. Okay, then for today, we are going to focus more on combination. Right, so for combination is when you want to choose anything, okay, or maybe when you want to consider all the objects, right, the order or the sequence is not important. Okay, and usually for combination, you will see the keyword select. Okay, so select is one of the keyword, or sometimes you'll see the word choose. All of these are actually the keyword for combination. Okay, you won't see the word arrangement, but you can see the word select lah, choose lah. Okay, so all these words belongs to combination keyword. Okay, so for combination, generally the formula is quite simple. There's only one formula that we are using, which is NCR. Okay, so that means you are having n object, let's say 10 objects, and you want to select 3 of them, so it should be NC3. Okay, so it's quite simple. But when you want to apply this formula also, you need to be aware that when you want to select from n object, right, it must be n distinct objects. So as an example, if you want to select 3 objects from 10, so those 10 objects must be different objects. It cannot be the identical object. Okay, so again, please highlight the keyword here, must be the n distinct object. Remember that. Okay, how about if let's say in your question you have something with identical objects, then you need to list out the case one by one. So we'll discuss that later also. Alright, so just to let you know that when you want to apply NCR, you have to ensure that the n must be different objects. Okay? Alright, so you'll see that PQR, PRQ, QPR, RQRP, all those things are considered as one combination, but there are 6 permutations. Because if let's say you don't consider the sequence, right? So all the 3 letters here are the same. So that means that it is one combination only. But if you want to consider the arrangement, then you can see that all the arrangements are different. So you're having 6 permutations. So that's the difference between combination and permutation. Alright, so sometimes I will tell students also for combination, usually I will tell them that you can imagine that combination means you only choose the objects. And then for permutation is you choose them and you arrange. So this one is choose only, choose. Okay, so this one is after you choose, you arrange them. Something like this. Okay, so we call it as the difference for the permutation and combination. Okay, alright, so this is what you should know about it. Okay, so hopefully you have the idea here. So for combination of idea, the concept is quite simple actually. Right? Okay, so let's start with some example. Okay, so you can have a look for example 15. Okay, so a team of 3 is to be chosen. So highlight the keyword chosen. So this word tells you that it is from combination part. Okay, so I want to have choose 3 athletes from 10. How many different teams will be chosen? So very, very simple. 10 athletes, all the people are different, right? So 10 C3. So when you have 10 C3, you have 120. So that's it. Very, very easy. Okay, all right. So have a look for example 16. I'm having 11 different CD. Highlight the word different. So that means you're having all the distinct objects. Okay, so 6 are pop music, 3 are jazz, and 2 are classical. And then this guy want to make a selection. Okay, so highlight the keyword selection. Okay, so this keyword again tells you that it is for combination part, right? Combination, not the permutation. So I want to have 2 pop music, 2 jazz CD, and 1 classical. So this is the complete selection. Complete selection means that for addition, they want you to select 5 CD in total. Okay, so which is 2, there are 2 pop music, 2 jazz, and 1 classical. Alright, so this is a complete selection of 5 CD here. Okay, so how can you complete the selection here? Okay, so from the 6 pop music, you want to select 2 of them. So 6 C2. 3 jazz music, you want to select 2 of them. So 3 C2. And after that, 2 classical, you want to select 1 classical. So 2 C1. Okay, so how to get the final answer? Should you plus them or should you multiply them? So this is also the concept that students will confuse very often. Okay, so now you have to remember when you want to form a complete selection, all the steps between all the selection between them, you have to multiply to make a complete selection. So let's say if you have one set of complete selection already and then you have another complete selection, then between these 2 parts you plus them. Understand what I say or not? So this is how I usually ask myself, should it be a plus or should it be a multiply? Okay, so I cannot put a plus here because if I put a plus here, it is actually not a complete selection one. This one means that you only have 2 CD. Your complete selection is 5 according to the question. Alright, so this is not a complete selection yet. So to complete the selection, to make a selection which is complete, you have to multiply them. Okay, so for this question, you have 90 as answer. Okay, so these two examples are quite straightforward generally. Alright, and then there are some questions which will be a bit more challenging. That means you need to consider the possible cases that we have. Okay, maybe you need to list out the case slowly and then see what should you consider and so on. So let's have a look for example 17. Okay, so for example 17, they are having a committee of 5 people is to be chosen. So again, highlight the keyword chosen. So this keyword tells you that it is from combination. Alright, so I'm having 6 men and also 4 women, and I want to form a committee of 5 people. Okay, so how many ways can this be done? Okay, first part, if there must be 3 men and 2 women in the committee. So 3 men and 2 women means that you can select 6 men, you want to choose only 3 of them. And then 4 women, you want to choose only 2 of them. And then to make this committee complete, right, a complete committee, you must have both men and women. So you have to multiply them. So men multiply women to get a complete committee. It shouldn't be a plus. Okay, if you put a plus here, that means you're having first committee, which is 3 people only, and the second committee, which is 2 people only. That is wrong. Okay, so you have to multiply them. So for this one, you have 120. Okay, so first part here, it is still quite straightforward. All right, you just select straight away. Okay, for the second part here, they give you some restriction already. Okay, so there must be more men than women in the committee. Okay, if let's say you want to have more men than women, generally there are a few cases that form this one, right? More men than women. This the first case, you should have 3 men, 2 women, so more men than women. Second case is 4 men and then 1 woman. You can also have 5 men and 0 women. So all these case belongs to more men than women case. So you have to list it out case by case. All right. So first case, 3 men, 2 women. So 6C3, then 4C2. So to make it a complete committee, you multiply them. 4 men, 1 woman. It should be 6C4. Multiply with 4C1. And then 6C5, 6 men, you want to choose 5 of them. And then you multiply with 4 women, you choose 0 of them. Okay, so from here, to combine all the answers together, you will know that this is a complete committee. This is another complete committee. This is another complete committee, right? Because each committee should consist of 5 persons. So this is one complete committee, the second complete committee, the third one. So to combine them together, you have to plus, but not multiply. Can you see the difference or not now? Okay, so I hope that you can roughly know the difference when to put a plus and when to put a multiply. Okay, so if you add all of them together, you should have 186. Okay, all right. Then after that, we go for the third part. So for second part here, they give you some restriction. So when you have all these restriction, right, you have to be careful of it. You have to try to list out and try to figure out how many cases you might have in this restriction, and then you try to choose, okay, what you want. Right. Okay, then let's continue to part number 3 also. They also give us another restriction here. There must be 3 men and 2 women. One particular woman refused to be in the committee with one particular man. Okay, so I don't know what happened to this women and men, but generally they don't want to be in the committee together. Okay, so now let's say this is the special man here, okay, and this is the special women. Okay, all right. So now what are the cases that we might have? Okay, so first you should have maybe the women in the committee already. Okay, then that means you have one more woman here, then 3 men here. This is the first case, but the 3 here doesn't include this one. Okay, the second case is what? The second case is maybe the man is inside the committee, but the woman is not in. Then the third one is both of them are not in the committee. Both of them are not in. Okay. All right. So how can I get the answer for the first one? Okay. So to get the answer for the first part, you need to select 3 men, right? Okay. So I will have 5C3. Okay. So can anyone tell me, or maybe you can ask yourself, why I'm having 5C3, but I'm not having 6C3? What is the reason that now the 6 become 5 now? Okay. So the reason is because we want to ensure that this special man will not be selected. Therefore, we exclude him from being selected. So that means originally you're having 6 men, right? You exclude him, that means you left only 5 men. So when you select 5C3, no matter how you select the 5C3, right, this particular man will not be in the committee. Understand what I said or not? Okay, then multiply with, okay, so now we focus on women. So this woman is in already, so I don't touch her anymore. That means so I have only need to select one woman to be in committee, because just now this special woman is already in. We assume that she's in already. So therefore to select another woman, I have only one space for women only. Okay, so to write out the step for the women here, it should be 3C1. So can anyone tell me why is it 3C1 but not 4C1? Okay, so 3C1 is because of I exclude this woman because the woman is already in the committee, so she can be selected again. Understand what I said or not? Right, therefore, you have to make sure that the woman is in and the total number for women become 3 now. So 3C1. So this is the first case. Alright, so you need some logic when you are trying all these questions, okay? Then now we go to part number 2. Okay, so for part number 2, I assume that the man is in the committee already. So I need to select only 2 more men to be in the committee. Since this special man is in the committee already, so the remaining man is 5. So 5C2 only, not 3. Okay, because we have 2 space left for the man. Multiply with 3C2. 3C2 means for the women. So again, why am I not putting in the 4C2, but I put only 3C2? Again, if the man is in the committee, that means this special woman cannot be in the committee, right? So I must ensure that she will be excluded from being chosen. So total women become 3 now, not the 2, not the 4, sorry. So you need to select 3C2. 3 women, you want to select 2 of them only. Okay? Alright, then how about both of them are not in the committee? So if both of them not in the committee means 5C2, 5C3, exclude the man being chosen, and also you're having 3C2, exclude the women being chosen. So these are the different cases that you have that fulfill this restriction. Okay, so if you get the answer right, everything here is 30 now. Then to get the final answer, these are the 3 complete committee. So you add them together, which become 90. Okay, so this is the way that we do it. Hopefully you understand. And then some students will say, can I have other ways to do? Okay, if you want to use other method also can. So I will show you another method here. So some students will say, how about if let's say I straight away make sure that this special man and this special women are in the committee, and then after that I take the total minus this also can. Alright, so if let's say you want to make sure that both men and women are in the committee, right? So for the selection here will be 5C2. Again, because 6 men, but this man is already in the committee, so you have 5 only. 5, so you want to select 2. And then for women is 3C1, because this woman is already in the committee. So the remaining 3, you want to select 1 only to put in. Okay, so this is the answer that you have. Then after that, you take the total. So what is the total? So total minus this one to get the answer. So the total here means that just now, when they ask you to calculate the problem, the number that you have 3 men and 2 women in first part. This is total without restriction. Okay, so the total without restriction is 120. Then minus, if you press calculator to get 5C2 times 3C1, you'll get 30 here. Okay, and end up you also have 90. So I don't know which one you understand better. So in exam, they will accept both of them. So it depends on how you think about the solution. Okay, so for example 17 part 3, like what I showed you just now, it is longer the step because you consider all the possible cases. And then for example 3 also, 17 part 3 also, this blue color part is you do it in the other way. Then you assume that both of them are already in the committee, then you take the total minus this case. Alright? Both are correct. There's no correct or wrong for this part. Okay, so both will be accepted. Okay, alright. So this is what we have. So far for all the examples that we discussed on here, you will see that all the objects that you want to select, like NC3, NC4, the N are distinct objects. We are talking about people, they are no identical objects. Okay. Then let's proceed further. How about if let's say you are having the N item which is not distinct. Not distinct means identical. Okay, so again, if you are having the identical object, right, when you want to involve all this in combination, you have no other way. You always need to do the case, increase the number of that item one by one. That means you have to list out the case one by one. Okay, you have to exclude the identical item and then increase the number one by one to answer the question. All right, so I will show you an example here. Okay, so you can have a look, for example, 18. Let's say I'm having the word biology, and then I want to select 3 letters from the word biology. Okay, so if you look at biology, you have B, I, O, L, G, Y. There are 6 letters here. You have 1 B, 1 I, 2 O, 1 L, 1 G, 1 Y. So you can see that there's repeated or identical item here, which is 2 O. Okay, so when you want to select the when you want to try to select the letter, the O here, you need to be very, very careful. Okay, so what you do now is you need to list it out case by case. So let's say I'm having case number 1, case number 2. Okay, so case number 1 means that from the 3 letters, right, there's no O. Then case number 2, maybe you need to consider 1 O is in the selection. And then for case number 3, you might have 2 O's in the selection. Can I have 3 O in the selection or not? Cannot. Why? Because maximum you have 2 O only. Can you see that? Maximum you have only 2 O. How can you get 3 O in your selection? So the maximum case, the maximum number is 2 O only. Okay, so now for this one, when you want to select 3 letters, okay, Three letter, right? 1, 2, 3. Three letter from the word biology, you should exclude the O. Because this is something repeated, so you shouldn't include it in. So you just consider those distinct items. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5C3 for first case. Okay, how about for second case? It will be 5C. You don't need to consider to choose which O because our both O are similar. Right? Okay, so you have two selection here, two space, two letter to choose. So it should be 5C2. And the third case here should be 5C1. So case number 1 is complete, case number 2 is complete, case number 3 is complete. Therefore, to get the final answer, right, you have to add these three cases together. So 10 plus 10 plus 5, which is equals to 25. Okay. So I hope that you have the idea here. Okay, you list out the case one by one. If let's say you're having identical objects. Okay, then next, let's continue to example 19. Okay, so for example 19, I want to select 4 letters from the word happiness, which contain no P. Okay, so again, I try to list out all the possible letters that I have. I have H, A, P, I, and E, S. So this one is 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2. Okay, so you're having two identical items, P and also S. But since in this question, they already tell that there's no P, therefore you can assume that the P disappears. Totally, you have no P. So you need to consider the letter from this only, H, A, I, and E, S. Okay, but again, before you start, you will see that there's another identical letter, right? Which is the S. Okay, all right, so maybe you need to consider. All right, so case 1. 4 letter 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have no S. Case 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 letter, you have 1 S inside. Case number 3, you have 4 letters again, and then you have both S inside. Okay, so for this step, now you don't need to consider the S anymore. You only consider all those distinct items, not identical one. H, A, I, and E. Yeah, 5 letters here. So 5, choose 4. Then this one should be 5, choose 3. And this one should be 5, choose 2. Okay, you won't consider the S at all. You just assume that S, you already put it separately just now in the different cases. All right, so only consider those distinct items. Okay, so if you have 5C4, 5C3, 5C2, you have 5 here and then 10 and 10. So the total value should be 10 plus 10 plus 5, which is equals to 25. Okay, so this is what we have for the basic type of combination question. Again, like what I said, all the examples that we discussed, right? When we discuss, you'll feel okay, you seem like quite understand. You know how we get an answer, get a value, but again, you have to practice a lot so that you know how to use and how to analyze the step correctly in the real exam. Okay, so you have to try out a lot exercise of this. Although the question sometimes looks very simple, but you find out that if you do it on your own, you feel it is not as easy as you think. All right, so again, please make sure you try a lot of questions from all these. Okay, so I can teach you the basic concept, but for practice, the exercise you have to depends on your own. Okay, so I'll stop here for this video. The next video, I will discuss some example that involve harder question about the combination part. Okay.